So in my Mastering Snowflake program, I tend to sprinkle real-world case studies from Snowflake into those relevant modules. So usually on this channel, I go through the technicalities of how to set up and configure certain aspects of Snowflake and the broad ecosystem of tools around it. But in this one, I'm going to focus on 5 interesting use cases which are all available on the Snowflake website. And so the aim of this video is to give you an idea of what leads customers to select Snowflake as their tool of choice and those common pain points that Snowflake then addresses to add real business value. So I hope you find it useful.
My name's Adam Morton, and I've written a couple of books on Snowflake. I've also been lucky enough to speak in front of my peers on a number of occasions. I've lived and worked in the UK, Europe and Australia during my career, and today I'm on a mission to help as many people as I can fulfill their career potential by adding as much value as I can around data strategy and modern cloud data platforms. And in this video, I've selected 5 interesting case studies to do with Snowflake. So the first case study I'm going to cover is the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, or OBWC for short. Now they are a provider of workers' compensation insurance and serves over 250,000 employees, which makes it one of the largest state-run insurance systems in the entire US. In 2015, OBWC found itself hitting the limits of its on-premise SQL database. They were suffering from various performance and scalability issues such as storage limitations, resource contention, and infrastructure maintenance was becoming quite costly. To address these issues with the current solution would have been complex, costly and risky. So OBWC decided that the future of their data platform was in the cloud.
Now, one of the main reasons why Snowflake was selected was because of its native SQL capabilities, and that allowed the existing team to leverage their existing experience and skills and continue to service requests from the business to keep the BI dashboards going that the business relied upon. Of course, moving to the cloud and migrating to the cloud is one thing, but the business doesn't stop and wait for the teams to finish doing that. The business are always going to have demands, and that native SQL capability allowed the existing data team to continue providing that level of service without having to upscale it on any different programming languages.
Demonstrating value early on from any cloud solution is also really important to secure business buy-in and adoption.
Snowflake's multi-clustered shared architecture really helped when it came to scalability on demand, and it overcame the storage and compute constraints that OBWC already had. That allowed them then to redeploy existing resources who would spend time managing and looking after and optimizing the system and trying to address performance problems. They were able to be redeployed onto higher value activities.
dbt then was introduced to handle data transformations whilst leveraging the power and scale of the Snowflake service underneath. This made it easier for the team to redevelop their dimensional models, leading to better decision making across actuarial, medical, claims and other departments. The ease of connecting dbt to Snowflake along with Tableau for BI dashboards opened the door to self-service analytics for the business. Snowflake's data sharing feature was also deployed. This allowed for reader accounts to be set up, which provided a really convenient way to securely share datasets with other agencies who weren't necessarily Snowflake customers. So for example, OBWC relies on Snowflake reader accounts to share data from its safety and hygiene department with the Ohio Department of Administration Services.
So in the future, OBWC are looking to leverage ML use cases on top of their dimensional models in Snowflake. The aim of this is to really rapidly identify fraudulent claims and pinpointing claim causation. If you'd like to know more about ML use cases in the insurance industry, something I'm more than happy to share with you, just let me know in the comments section below. Data from Snowflake's marketplacing can be leveraged to enhance ML models and augment existing internal data to improve accuracy. Snowflake support for Python through Snowpark, which is the ML service that Snowflake provides natively, allows for building models on top of Snowflake without necessarily needing to move that data outside of Snowflake and into another tool, further streamlining that analytical modeling process.
The second use case I'd like to touch on is from Natwest. Now Natwest, if you're not familiar, is a long-standing retail and commercial bank in the UK. Its ESG team, which if you're not familiar with the term stands for environmental, social and corporate governance, delivers climate and social responsibility insights to help the bank comply with regulations and support customers transitioning to net zero. So financial markets need clear, comprehensive, high-quality information on the impacts of climate change to meet this regulatory need. This also includes the risks and opportunities presented by rising temperatures, climate-related policy, and emerging technologies within this changing world that we live in today. So in 2019, the Bank of England began stress testing major financial institutions to understand the impact that the physical climate risks would have on liabilities and investments. And they created something called a Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD for short, to improve and increase reporting of climate-related information. So due to this increased importance, climate was elevated to Natwest's 2030 goals, which meant their ESG data team needed to provide data insights to meet a very broad spectrum of climate analytics use cases across lending, investment, and compliance. Natwest's existing on-premise systems simply weren't equipped to handle these requirements or the large varied data sets that ESG reporting demands.
As NatWest primarily used a Microsoft tech stack, it was only natural that they were very keen on a SQL-based solution, which also formed part of their core criteria for that vendor selection process. The ESG team were also looking for features that supported the rapid prototyping of new features so they could test and learn very quickly, build momentum, and work out where their business value was. Many of the data providers used by NatWest, such as S&P and FactSet, were already on the Snowflake marketplace. This meant that more traditional methods of accessing data using things like SFTP, for example, could be negated when you're using something like Snowflake.
Ultimately, Snowflake was selected as the next generation data platform for NatWest's ESG team.
And similar to the Ohio use case we discussed earlier, SQL was a real key factor in NatWest's decision making here. They had a 40-strong data team. They were all experienced in SQL, and a key criteria was getting those people as productive as possible with the new system. NatWest's ESG team were also able to decommission on-premise legacy systems very quickly, reducing their carbon footprint by around 80%, as well as the associated costs with those systems. So another similarity with the Ohio use case that we discussed earlier was NatWest also looked to use DBT, and they built something called the Data Guardian Framework. Now, from reading between the lines, this looks like a kind of metadata-driven data quality framework which aims to proactively check data quality of incoming data and pick it up at the earliest possible point. The granular access controls that Snowflake offers, such as row and column level security, also made things really easier for NatWest, who are obviously dealing with a lot of customer information and a lot of PII data fields. So the ease of implementation on that on Snowflake, as well as the overhead then ongoing of managing that, was really important to NatWest.
And if you'd like to know more about those row access controls, I'll put a link in the banner above now. So NatWest's future aspirations look to integrate Snowflake with the bank's current AWS infrastructure. So this may help introduce new data which currently sits out on AWS services into Snowflake, for example. Use of Snowpark is also mentioned as part of the case study to support the build of ML models, as well as data clean rooms to securely share data with partners for a range of use cases. The third case study I'd like to touch on is Ramp, who are a finance automation platform. Essentially, they try to make it easier for companies to issue corporate charge cards, make bill payments, automate accounting processes, and monitor expenses. Now, I picked this use cases as it includes a number of modern cloud-native tools to achieve its goals. Now, Ramp had seen exponential growth since its start, increasing revenue and cardholders by 10 times and 15 times respectively year over year in 2021. Now, the sheer influx of new users created concurrency issues, resulting in costly, hard-to-debug failures, forcing the data teams to spend too much time managing workloads and not adding true business value. Whenever too many users tried to access a specific database, Ramp's entire database would actually deadlock and nobody could access the data. So scaling up to meet the demands of the various business teams and internal stakeholders required excessive work. Ramp's data team also wanted to give the business users access to the data they cared about most in the tools they use every day. This objective then, mixed with the challenges of Ramp's previous data warehouse led the company to adopt a new tech stack that could not only scale with Ramp's data team, but also provide a way for business teams to access the data sitting within the analytics layer. Looking for a scalable and flexible solution that could act as a single source of truth, Ramp quickly landed on Snowflake. As a fully managed data platform, the data cloud completely eliminates all of the bottlenecks that Ramp was facing previously. Snowflake automatically manages all of the underlying maintenance in the background, allowing the data teams to focus their time transforming the data and building models that can positively impact Ramp's bottom line.
And as Snowflake scales, as Ramp also grows from a business perspective, the team no longer need to worry about concurrency issues or BI dashboards freezing. With Snowflake, Ramp's data team can automate all of those manual tasks that the administrators were forced to manage with the previous solution.
Ramp also collects various valuable customer data from a range of data sources, including Postgres, Salesforce, HubSpot, Zendesk, Outreach, and various ad platforms. So spinning up additional software to clean and transform this data in the analytics warehouse was going to be difficult. The team built new data models manually without testing or any version control, resulting in variations of core metrics across the business. Ramp uses dbt to standardize over a quarter of metrics and fully automate, schedule, and run every transformation job. With dbt jobs running in Snowflake, Ramp's data team can aggregate, transform, and enrich all of their customer data in Snowflake to build a complete 360-degree view of the customer. This data is then used to create risk profiles for specific users and improve personalization, whether it's in the app, on their website, or through automated marketing campaigns.
Building data models in dbt is one thing, but activating them in downstream sales and marketing channels is another. With so many valuable dbt models living on Snowflake, Ramp wanted to use this data to enrich its Salesforce CRM system.
Anytime Ramp's data team wanted to move data, they were forced previously to build and replace various Python scripts.
And this was a real challenge for Ramp because their business teams really wanted to leverage this powerful and valuable data within tools like Salesforce and HubSpot to improve personalization. That led Ramp to choose high touch for reverse ETL. Now off the back of that, Ramp's now created an entirely new outbound team, which now accounts for 25% of their sales pipeline. It's staffed by data engineers, but it collaborates closely with Ramp's marketing team to identify target prospects, deliver customized emails at scale to the right person at the right time.
The team has become the single lowest costing customer acquisition channel for Ramp. Since adopting a modern tech stack, Ramp can go from ideation to validation to iteration and set up fully functional operational workloads and marketing campaigns in less than 1 day. For Ramp, the future lies in continuing to find ways to help businesses become better, more profitable versions of themselves through finance automation that maximizes the output of every dollar. So the company now is looking to build out its automation platform to reach customers across every expense, payment, purchase, application, and insight, from reporting to forecasting.
So within these case studies, I wanted to have a wide range of industries, and the next one by Veradigm is a healthcare company, and it includes a broad range of the Snowflake workloads to provide data and insights around healthcare providers and payers and life science organizations to improve patient healthcare. Now it uses the collaboration, data engineering, data warehouse, data lake, data science and application workloads in Snowflake. So that really piqued my interest to see a case study which involves such a diverse range of workloads from Snowflake. And that's why it's number 4 on the list of use cases. Now, prior to being in Snowflake, Veradigm's current state infrastructure and environments were heavily fragmented and included lots of data silos. That made it really complex and hard to deliver pieces of work. And for example, it mentions in the case study that even onboarding a new data source took 9 months. So it just wasn't really practical to continue using that current state solution. It also made it hard to secure and govern data, and some of the tables that the team were dealing with at Veradigm were so wide they had to break them into smaller component pieces, creating extra steps in the process, more inefficiencies, and it just wasn't sustainable long term. So Veradigm selected Snowflake, and they were able to migrate data onto the Snowflake platform, make it operational within just 2 months. Overall, the entire migration process to become fully operational on Snowflake and decommission those legacy systems took about 1 year, which is fairly typical on average in terms of the projects I see. So obviously Snowflake's highly scalable multi-cluster architecture really helped improve performance at a reasonably low cost compared to their current state architecture that they were moving away from. In addition to that, the Snowflake Data Marketplace offered them a way of securely sharing data with other providers seamlessly and easily without the overhead and complexity and latency involved with more traditional methods like SFTP. The fact that Snowflake also can run on multiple different cloud platforms, that really supported one of Veradigm's strategy, which was to have a multi-cloud setup across all of their systems and platforms. Another one of their principles was to have ongoing cost optimizations and the granular level of control Snowflake offers over things like virtual warehouses, and being able to fine-tune some of the options and parameters around those, such as number of clusters, how it can auto-scale, as well as auto-suspend time, along with the different t-shirt sizes of virtual warehouses, really give Veradigm a lot of flexibility in this space. And finally then, on this use case, I mentioned the data marketplace before in terms of securely sharing data with different providers. One of the competitive advantages that the company saw in using the marketplace was also to monetize data and showcase some of the insights that they had available internally that they were never able to offer on the open market to other providers that could make use of that data, as well as being able to monetize it was another revenue stream, and all fed back into the business case and return on investment for Veradigm.
So next case study in our list, the final one of the 5, is EDF. Now, energy and gas has been a massively hot topic for the last 12 months since the war in Ukraine and Russia. Prices have went through the roof, so there's a lot of focus in the media and also now from the regulators in terms of capping prices, and that's why I wanted to choose a company from the energy sector, and in this case it's EDF. Now, on this particular point, EDF has a responsibility to its customers and wanted to use analytics and machine learning functionality to help identify financially vulnerable customers so they could reach out to them proactively and help them use energy and gas efficiently and also reduce their bills. Now, to help them do this, it already built an in-house solution called the Customer Analytics Zone. But deriving insights from this was slow, cumbersome, and not that easy, which made them turn to the market for a better technology solution to enable this. Now, one of those key challenges that's mentioned in the case study is getting access to the right data that they needed to be able to produce these models in the first place, and a lot of that data existed within the company's corporate data lake. And obviously, to identify these financially vulnerable customers, we're talking about a lot of sensitive information and PII data. So in order to get access to the data within the data lake, there was a number of hurdles the data science team needed to jump through in order to get sign-off just to be able to access the data in the first place. Furthermore, once the customer analytics team then had access to these data extracts from the data lake, all the data security and governance was pushed off for that team to manage as well. So this is a familiar story I've seen in the past. The IT, when they release stuff out into the customer analytics team for analysis, then the rigor and controls necessary to protect that data sometimes goes with it as well, and those teams aren't set up to manage the data at scale and the security around that. So just last year in 2022, after spending months trying to get a new model into production, the team grew so frustrated that they turned to look for a better solution on the market, and that's where Snowflake came in. And so Snowflake, in conjunction with Snowpark, again, lots of the case studies so far have mentioned Snowpark and ML use cases. This allowed the team then to build models directly on top of where the data lived without having to shift it out of the system and manage it themselves. They could also use Python, which was their language of choice for building these analytical models in the first place. So this allowed the customer analytics team in EDF then to build an intelligent customer engine, or ICE for short, in Snowpark,
using the data within Snowflake, avoiding all those layers of governance, sign-offs that needed to happen before to get extracts from the data lake. Once they developed their ML model in Snowpark, they pushed it into their existing AWS SageMaker environment to actually operationalize and run those models. And that also allowed them to leverage the partnership between Snowflake and AWS for all the connectivity and the support they required at the time to get themselves up and running. And interestingly, some of the use cases then that this new model flags up in relation to financially vulnerable customers, it looks for certain points in the data. So who's often being disconnected for not topping up their meters. So for example, in the UK, you can have meters which you top up using a card, and that buys you so many kilowatt hours, for example, in terms of energy. When that runs out, you'll get disconnected. So monitoring the occurrences of how many of those short-term disconnections each customer has is one good indicator of a financially vulnerable customer that EDF identified. The other one is when they're topping up small amounts of money on this card for their meters, that was another key indicator. So the model was flagging these customers in the system, allowing EDF to proactively reach out, contact them, and see if they could help and assist those financially vulnerable customers. And one byproduct which I haven't mentioned so far, which EDF do call out on their case study, was that from a data science perspective and attracting and retaining talent, which is a challenge for all major companies at the moment. Obviously using Snowflake, Snowpark, AWS SageMaker, it's all modern technology aimed to make the lives of data scientists easier and actually impact on customers' lives in this case. So being able to work with these best of breed tools rather than having to deal with extracts from a data lake and bring it into legacy third-party data science applications is obviously not what data scientists want to be doing. But unfortunately, it's where they spend a lot of their time usually. So one of the byproducts was being able to create a better environment, more productive environment, and therefore motivated teams and staff, and attracting and retaining better talent. The final point the case study mentions is then taking what they'd built and offering it externally on a portal to customers through a customer analytics hub, if you like. So customers then can log on to the EDF website, view their energy usage, compare that against similar households of a similar size in a similar area to see how they're doing and how efficient or not they are. Ultimately though, I really like this case study because it's looking to support financially vulnerable customers in their time of need and showing how ML use cases together with Snowflake and the AWS services can help solve some of those critical business pain points for EDF. So in summary then, the 5 use cases had some common themes that you've probably recognized if you've been working with different clients in the market, or if you work for an employer that's been through one of these journeys themselves. Often companies are constrained with on-premise technologies, either from storage or compute or both. We mentioned a couple of case studies there, such as Ramp, where they were, even though a modern technology company, they were constrained by lock-in issues and concurrency issues. Also, there's the adoption of ML now, it's starting to become easier and easier to operationalize ML models to actually get tangible business results, something that's historically been very difficult and still is, and it's still got a long way to go. But again, a common theme running through a lot of those use cases was around ML use cases and the use of Snowpark for semi-structured and structured data. That's probably going to be the next stage companies start to look into. The other point that I wanted to make is that one of Snowflake's key advantages is that it's native SQL based. You can look to leverage your team's existing skills and experience using any relational database technology from what's considered legacy now, so they can redeploy their skills using Snowflake and get up to speed very quickly. However, Snowflake, if you notice, is not always deployed alone. It needs to rely on other tools. Snowflake is that bit in the middle of the platform that can store your data, and it offers some ML options and some native application framework options, which are starting to mature and becoming more prevalent in the field. But you still need an ETL tool of sorts. You still need something to provide your data transformations like DBT. You may need something like a reverse ETL tool like HighTouch that we saw an earlier use case to push data then back into systems to operationalize pipelines. So that concludes this week's video on the Snowflake and the 5 interesting use cases or case studies, if you like, that I picked off the Snowflake website. I hope you find that useful. If you did, keep watching, keep subscribing. New videos coming very soon.
You looking to grow your skills this new year and looking to fulfill your career potential? Maybe you've been frustrated by being stuck in a dead-end job in your company, or your employer hasn't necessarily invested in you and you're stuck working with on-premise systems. Well, this is exactly why I designed this course, this program, Mastering Snowflake. My members join me and have typically got 10 to 15 years experience in IT and data specifically. They've often got a lot of skills and experience that they've poured time and effort into over the years, and they want to be able to leverage that to the best degree. So they come to me, they're often quite confused about where to start. There's so many overlapping technologies out there, there's so many different buzzwords, and I want to really help you and these people cut through all of that marketing hype and really get a good understanding of how to design and deploy solutions for the cloud. I choose Snowflake because I find it really empowering to work with. It's really easy to get up and running. It's got a lot of good features and concepts as well. If you come in from an on-premise environment, will be really game-changing to you in terms of your day-to-day role. So I'm basically packaged up everything I've learned using Snowflake since 2017 across a range of implementations. I've now got a number of recipes, if you like, that allow you to take the out-of-the-box capabilities of Snowflake, package them up to address real-world business challenges. This will save you time and effort. All of the kind of mistakes and everything that I had to make initially to get to this point, you will be able to kind of fast-track yourself to that. So as part of the program itself, I provide all of the hands-on demos, the code I use, the code templates, and the patterns I use with my enterprise scale clients. You also get access to a exclusive members only group to get expert advice and share knowledge, not only around Snowflake, although we do have a number of obviously discussion points around Snowflake itself, and that could also include certification or interview guidance and advice, but we also include any tools and technologies around the modern data platform space, whether that be DBT, Matillion, Fivetran, Stitch, Elation, Atlan, Power BI, Tableau, you name it. You know, we've all got different experiences we can bring to the table. I also conduct live 60-minute group coaching calls, which are completely optional. And people from around the world turn up to those and ask me any questions, whether that be around technology, whether that be around data strategy, or architecture advice and guidance. Your investment in yourself in terms of getting into this program will continue to pay dividends to you, because obviously Snowflake is changing every single month, and all of those updates are fed back into the program periodically over time. So it's all being designed by myself from the ground up. It's very practical, it's very hands-on, provide in-depth background, not just around the theory, but with real-world case studies and then practical hands-on activities within each module. So if you're interested, this is what it looks like in terms of the course breakdown and the structure. You can apply. At the moment, we've opened the membership up for new applications. There's a link in the video description below. Please hit that link, apply to join. I'd love to have you as part of the program. The key thing for me is making sure you're the right fit and you're going to get the most amount of value from it. Thanks so much for listening. All the best on your Snowflake journey.